Hey there, this is Russ Lagan. It is big agent meeting time. It is Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and my name is Russ Lagan. I will be your host today. Today, we're going to kick off with a quick market minute from me. Then we're going to jump over to Ian with KGCI Radio, of course, for an update on what's going on with them. And then we'll jump over to Holly Mabry, having a conversation about what's going on, brokerage ops, things you need to know to keep in your business to stay up to speed with what's going on. And then, of course, we're going to drop over to Brian Ellington for his winning clients segment with Payson Robertson. If you guys have not seen that, you're going to want to check that out. This dude's going to be talking about open houses. I think he went a little bit on the extreme side, and it's a pretty cool story that came out of this. So you're going to want to stick around and see that. So before we get going, I'm going to kick it off with the real estate market minute. I want to make sure we keep telling you guys over and over and over the importance of how doing a good market update makes all the difference in the world and how you approach your business. So a couple of the things that you need to know. Number one, know your numbers. Okay, you got to know your numbers. I was in Portland, I was in Montana, I was in Detroit, I was in Fort Lauderdale, and I was in Philadelphia for rallies. I made sure every single one of those stops, I talked about something. We talked about numbers and knowing what your numbers are. Interestingly enough, in a lot of those markets, they didn't really know what their numbers were. Interestingly enough, also, you look at Fort Lauderdale's at a 9.8 month supply of homes, which is meaning that's starting to shift towards a buyer's market. So that's probably going to be a market where you're going to start seeing softening of house prices. You're going to see price reductions, and you're not seeing as many people fighting over houses. Complete counterpoint to that, I followed that up with 4 days later in Philadelphia, and I announced in Philadelphia, hey, you guys, your inventory of supply went up like 50% in the last year. Up 50%. But here's the problem. It's up to 1.8 months supply of homes. So your inventory could double again and again. And that's what it would take to get you to a 6 month supply of homes. So Fort Lauderdale, very local, hyper local, seeing softening of house prices in the southeast of Florida. And by the way, southwest of Florida also is doing the same thing. Detroit, Michigan, 2-something month supply of homes. Philadelphia, under 2 months supply of homes, which means if you price a house right, it's still going for bidding wars. You're having multiple offers and having properties keep appreciating in that type of market. So the 4 main numbers you need to know are like, how many listings do you currently have on the market? And then, of course, how many did you have last year and how many did you have 5 years ago? If you know those 3 metrics for those 3 years, this year, last year, and then maybe 5 years ago, 7 years ago, you get a context of what's going on with listings. Are they up or down? Is it up or down year over year? And by the way, if it's up, that doesn't mean it's bad, because when you look at how many properties sold in the last 30 days, if you've got 5,000 listings in the market and 2,500 closings, that means you're at a 2 month supply of homes. If you've got 5,000 listings in the market and you've got 5,000 sold in the last market, you're a 1 month supply of homes. And again, if you're 5,000 listings and only 1,000 sold, 5 month supply of homes. So if you know those 2 numbers, you can tell what the supply of homes is. If no other homes come on the market, that's how long it's going to take to have 0 homes left. And of course, we know there's always properties coming on the market. So it's understanding what that flow currently looks like and what it looks like this year versus last year. So are we seeing inventory levels up in a lot of markets? Yeah. But the sales numbers and the buys are moving up to match that in some of these markets, like Philadelphia. Yeah, they've got more listings available, but they also have more sales going on. So I said this when I was in Fort Lauderdale. I'm like, it's like having 2 pairs. Like, I've got a shoe store, I've got 2 pairs of shoes, but I got 5 people that want to buy them. We don't have low and slow shoe sales. We don't have enough shoes. So it's a matter of understanding what's really going on in your market and being able to communicate that. Of course, then I always want to look at median sales price. What is the median sales price? Now, again, that means half the sales were higher, half the sales were lower. Gives me a smack dab in the middle. The reason I like median over average is because if I do average, you can have a big sale or 2 in a market and completely throw off the average, where median is just half above, half below. So if you get a couple of weird hairballs on the top or weird hairballs on the bottom, it doesn't really matter, doesn't really mess up that median number. It gives you better consistency of what's going on year over year, what's selling. It doesn't necessarily mean houses appreciated that much. It just means what's selling, tells you what's selling and what the price point is of the things that are selling in that market. So with those 4 pieces of information, you can always make sure you know exactly what's going on in the market and be able to communicate it and then tell them what it means. We're at a 1.8 month supply of homes in Philadelphia, which that means is if you're thinking about selling, you can sell it for top dollar, and you're going to probably have multiple offers on your property if you price it right. If you overprice it, you're going to have to do a price reduction. Welcome to the new world. People aren't just doing crazy stuff anymore. They're doing things that make sense in most of these markets. So while it has shifted a little bit, a lot of markets, it's important to know exactly what your metrics are for your market. If you're seeing something different than that, good. Know what's going on in your market, but make sure you double check and because information out there in the world is not accurate. We're hearing people going, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Not in Philadelphia, not in Detroit, not in most of the Midwest, by the way. So it's important that you know your numbers, so when somebody's got bad information, you can actually counteract that bad information with factual information and show them. Don't just tell them, show them this. Okay, so there you go, market minute, a couple extra minutes there, but I want to make sure you guys all got that. If you missed me at one of the rallies, make sure you got that information. All right, so there you go. Next up, we have Ian Wheatley with KGCI Radio. Ian Wheatley, take it away, brother.
Hey there, thanks for checking in during the Big Agent Meeting here on KGCI Real Estate On Air. Bill O'Reilly once said, "We'll do it live. If you know, you know." And that's exactly what we're doing more and more of here on KGCI Real Estate On Air. It starts with me Tuesday mornings with Real Estate On Air Live. We break down what's happening in the real estate headlines, bring on featured guests from our host network, and of course, I read the wildest, weirdest real estate confessions from Facebook and Instagram. Then we head into Friday, the KGCI main stage. Kick things off early with Jimmy Nelson's Elite Real Estate Podcast, 7:30 Eastern. Yeah, you can even call into that one live. It's part conversation, part coaching, and full of the kind of insight that'll carry you into the weekend strong. And of course, we all wrap it up here together on the Big Agent Meeting. So if you ever miss it live on YouTube, KGCI Real Estate On Air, we got your back. We bring you every episode before rolling into our weekly Friday Focus. And this week's Friday Focus, it's a good one. Is your website just a digital business card, or is it actually generating you leads? We're talking strategy, layout, calls to action, and all the tools the top agents are using to build websites that convert even in today's market. So if your site isn't producing you leads, this is your blueprint. Be sure to listen live or on demand. Hundreds of agents have downloaded our always free KGCI Real Estate On Air mobile app for iPhone and Android. It's your 24/7 business building broadcast, always on, always ready. Just scan the QR code on your screen or search KGCI in the App Store or Google Play, and let's do it live with KGCI Real Estate On Air.
All right, so there you go. Ian Wheatley with the update. What's going on in KGCI Radio? Make sure you plug in, log in. I jump on Spotify once in a while, get on my rowing machine, get some rows, learn some stuff on KGCI Radio. So make sure you do that. All right, so with that said, next up, we have the one and only Holly Mabry with Brokerage Market Update. What's going on in the brokerage? It's something you need to know. Take it away, Holly Mabry.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's so crazy, everything that's been going on in the market. And we have definitely been in a shifting market, I would say, for at least the next 90 days. And will project we're going to continue to see that over the summer. What does this mean? Well, basically, across the board, inventory is stuck. From Realtor.com and the National Association of Realtors, they're basically looking at 44% of the largest metro areas are kind of stuck. They're kind of at that equilibrium. They don't quite have enough inventory. It's not quite a buyer's market. It's just a state of flux. But it's interesting because 30% are getting closer to balance, and then we've got those that are just lagging and falling further and further behind. And they're showing up in places that you would expect: California, New York, the Upper East Coast, and then down in the Miami area. Now, what does this mean? Well, basically, in the lacking of inventory for those average American households pulling in about $75,000, we're just not able to see that affordability factor. So really the price points in the most need, and they broke this down, which I thought was so great, 360,000 units at $170,000 or less. And I know I'm out in Arizona. Some people are like, Holly, where do we go get those? Well, some of it's going to be in the Midwest. Some of it's going to be in the Southeast, definitely not into Florida. But as you start to look, okay, we need 416,000 units at $255. That starts to become more reasonable as you look across the Midwest, and then about 364,000 units at $340. Okay, now that's hitting where I'm at. We are seeing some of that start to go forward. Okay, but let's talk interest rates, because affordability goes across the board. And when we start to impact what's next, it's really important to look at inflation. That's where the Fed has said, okay, Holly, what are we doing? And they really want to get to 2%. Well, April inflation rates were really slowed because of the tariffs that we're seeing out of the administration. But one of my favorite things is coffee. So I wanted to see, what has inflation done to coffee? Y'all, we went from $4.06 last year up to $7.54 this year. That's pretty substantial. Now, eggs are coming down just a little bit, but overall, households are still being impacted. And that is having everybody kind of a little bit nervous, a little bit holding back. As a result, we want to look at rates. Across the board, we're not going to see below 6 probably through the end of the year. We may never see it in our lifetime. And I know there's a lot of talk, especially those move-up buyers or first-time home buyers. They want that 3% interest rate. At the end of the day, we may never see those again. That was an anomaly that occurred during COVID. And we're just, the reality that we will have that is very lacking. So it's important. This is coming off of Keeping Current Matters. And I love using that as a resource. But bankrate.com, Freddie and Fannie, there are a lot of wonderful resources out there that you can be sharing with your clients and be talking about on social media, but also earning that trust. Along those lines, what will happen with home price growth? Well, at the beginning of the year, we really thought we would see somewhere within the 4 to 5% appreciation. Well, everybody's adjusting their forecast. They're looking at across the board, and those are coming down. What does that mean to the average home owner? We saw so much appreciation from 2020 to 2025 that many folks are riding in 50% equity, things that they never thought they would dream of. As a result, that liquidity that they have could allow them to move up in purchase power if they wanted to. But that's a big if. So for buyers right now, the good news is interest rates are staying stable, but also the prices of homes are starting to leverage, even out, and we're not going to see a big appreciation. Now, this is where I want you to think about the next 90 days completely differently. 1000 Watt just did a recent survey, and what I appreciate that they broke down that was so impactful is what are younger buyers looking at? What is important to them and what's driving them forward? And what's so key here is motivations are emotional. They are truly about controlling their space. It was way over like, hey, I want to build wealth or I want to beat the housing prices. That was like 11% of people surveyed said, yeah, I want to build wealth. No, most people wanted control over their own space to the tune of about 33%. Financial barriers. Yes. Student loans, we're seeing those come back in full fervor because, hey, can I afford this down payment? Can I afford the cost of ongoing maintenance? That's important to buyers right now. What does it look like? And this is where you and I have to start to shift. We can't say, hey, stretch as far as you can. We're now in that guidance and really talking to people about the risk factors. What does it look like? And how you and I become those risk mitigators, having honest conversations about, hey, what does it cost to put on a new roof? Or the water heater is probably, it's 13 years old. It's probably going to go in the next couple of years. What does that look like for you as a homeowner in constant maintenance that you do need to paint? You should get the carpets clean. The garage door can break, all of those things. The other thing that I found so interesting out of this 1000 Watt survey is trust factor. You and I have used social media for years, really to kind of leverage and get to know people before they call us. That's shifting right now. And that is really heating up because of AI. How you and I work across the board is going to change. So I want you to think of your business in this way. I want you to focus on how you leverage the emotional storytelling of actually the home buying process, buying in your area, what it feels like to own your own space and be in charge of your own space. People are not necessarily watching a whole lot of HGTV, but you can think about what it looks like in your marketplace and tell that story. If you and I become emotional storytellers, connecting the dots for people in our market, that starts to leverage. Now, how do you do that? Guys, I want you to buy ChatGPT. I want you to buy one of the open AIs, and I want you to start leveraging that with your business. If you haven't already watched Seth Ziegler's masterclass, it's phenomenal. He will walk you through great prompts, things to think about, all of it. You've got to invest in yourself. And AI right now is hitting a fever pace. Those not embracing AI today may lose out on opportunities tomorrow. So I really want to invite you along on this journey. Now, the 1,000-watt survey, the last thing that they really kind of came to is that the buyers demand simplicity, speed, and transparency. We've had a lot of conversations together over the last few weeks about transparency in the process, having access to information, clear about pricing, contracts, all of that. This is where leveraging your EXP toolboxes, both for sellers and buyers, is so critical. If someone's looking on Zillow, help them find homes there. If they're looking and they want that MLS portal, great, leverage that. The idea that we should withhold any information from consumers, that's long gone. It is more important for you and I to transparently share the information, but then connect the dots for the consumers. That's really where our value shows up. How you and I work with people, take care of them, and our follow-up is all that matters. If I can be of any assistance, I'm just a workplace chat away. Thanks all.
All right, there you go. Holly Mabry, always bringing the fire, bringing you the good stuff, making sure you know what's going on and you know where we're positioned so you can line with us and make sure we're taking your business to the next level. One single great piece of info at a time. Thank you, Holly, always for the great info you bring to the table. All right, so next up, we have the one and only Brian Ellington talking about winning clients, and he's got the one and only Payson Robertson. This guy, open house. If you want to talk about doing open houses a little bit different, check this interview out.
All right, thank you. eXp University has been doing research interviews for our lead generation training series. Each different form of lead generation, we go out and find rock stars who are masters of that particular form of lead generation, and we pick their brains, figure out how they're doing things, why they do things that way, and so on. And we share that with you through the university training courses, but we also get to share some of these great conversations with you through BAM. So today I'm going to share a conversation I had with Payson Robertson out of California. He did 100 open houses in 100 days. And now he and his team are doing 1,000 open houses in 100 days. And Payson shared with us how he did it, why he did it that way, and the results that he got from it. Enjoy. How long have you been in the industry?
It'll be 5 years in August.
5 years. Where'd you come from before that?
I worked at Starbucks.
Nice. All right. So from Starbucks to crushing it in real estate in 5 years, that's awesome. So you do open houses. Is that the primary source of your lead generation or just one of those?
So at the time when I first started doing this whole, I started this whole open house thing, that was my only source of lead generation. Today it's changed a lot because now I run a team and we have other lead sources that I now pay for, and we have stuff like Zillow Flex and whatnot. But in the beginning, it was just solely open houses, and that's how I built pretty much where we are today.
Okay. And Leo quoted what is an unthinkable number. Do you want to share the number that he shared with everybody about you and open houses?
What I started with was 100 open houses in 100 days, and that's how my business exploded. Right now, we're doing a challenge of 1,000 open houses in 100 days with my team. So
okay.
I think I'm trying to remember exactly how many I had sat. Last year, I think I sat somewhere just over 300 was what I sat personally.
Wow.
It was a really busy year. And this year we're doing the challenge with the team where we're doing 1,000 amongst the team in 100 days.
That's amazing. Now, it's not unusual to hear realtors doing a big volume of open houses, but usually that's done in a year's time, not 100 days time. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, when you do things at scale like that versus doing, your standalone solo open house on a weekend or something like that, what's different?
So I think it's just the consistency of like the neighbors getting to know you and like people seeing your signs up every day. Like, so because I'll be completely honest, like some days we would do them every day, and some days you'd get no one that would show up. But the thing was, people were driving past your signs, and people, frequent the same area all the time. So then at some point, you've been sitting in the house long enough where people are all of a sudden like, okay, I have to go check out whoever this guy is, like, why the heck is he sitting so many open houses? And that's why I'd get so many people through. And then those would turn into clients where they're like, hey, we want you to list our house. Like, we already know that you work your butt off. Like, we're ready to go. Like, let's work with you. So that's what, like, I think helped me stand out when I was starting it out.
Okay. So as you started doing open houses, were they your listings? Were they somebody else's?
In the beginning, they were other people's listings. And then and once it, like, this started to, like, kind of, you know, take its course, I started to pick up listings and I started to do it for my own.
Okay. And what was that script like when you called that other agent to ask if you could sit there open?
So I learned that it was easiest. So what I would say, and this is from just learning over time, was like, hey, I would usually, at first I started with calling and then I just ended up texting because I realized it didn't make a difference. And I would just say, hey, this is Payson Robertson with eXp Realty. I see your, you know, listing at 123 Main Street. Can I sit it Monday through Friday from, you know, 11 to 1 or 4 to 6? And the reason why I would always say Monday through Friday and not mention the weekend is a lot of times agents would be like, oh no, we already have the weekend covered. And they may not have the weekend covered. They just don't want to deal with it or they don't want you to sit it. But no one has the weekdays covered. So what I would then find was people would allow us to sit for the weekday. And then, you know, by Wednesday, Thursday rolls around, it'd be like, hey, can I sit the weekend too? And then they just let you sit the weekend. So it was more like a figuring out, like, because people, if you would just say, hey, can I sit in an open house? They'd be like, oh, we got it covered. And it's like, I know you don't got it covered for the weekday.
Yeah. Now, are these vacant then, most of the houses? That's what you're targeting?
Yeah, they pretty much need to be. And I'll give a good example. I had people that walked in to an open house I was sitting. They hired me to list their house and help them buy another house. It was the first 2 transactions I did during this 100-day time. They hired me because they wanted me to do it, but they lived in the house full time with an older dog. And like the dog was old and it was a big dog. And so I was sitting open houses for like 2 weeks for them in a row. They got over it super quick. And they're like, hey, like, you could sit them on the weekends, or like you could even throw it on the MLS and like we'll sit here, but like we don't want to leave the house anymore every day for 2 hours at a time. So vacant's by far the best way to go. Or like if it's like a recently flipped house, you know, or a staged home, those are like your 2 ideals. So
okay. All right, great. And when you think about like when you hold the houses open, so you said you were holding them weekdays 4 to 6. What about weekends?
Usually weekends would be 11 to 1 or 1 to 3 is what I found worked best for us. So I started with longer time blocks, like longer periods of time, and then I condensed it down to 2. And most of it was because I started to get so many showings from all this that I needed time for showings. But the other piece that I noticed was like most people come within a 2-hour time block. So like you may lose, you know, 1 or 2 people on, you know, other end of like that time, but like most people come within a 2-hour time block. And if they see it's open on the MLS all week, they'll come at some point. Like if they want to see the house, they'll make time at, you know, 1 day out of the week to go and see it.
Okay. And you're holding the same house open multiple times.
I try and sit the same house as long as possible. Like I had one house that I sat, I think, close to 100 days.
Wow. Why would you do that?
All the sellers. So it's all like the people that live nearby that see your signs. And then like what happened was like if you sit in the same house or even at least the same neighborhood, and then you're cold calling the neighborhood because you're inviting people to the open house, people see the signs and they're like, oh yeah, I know your signs. Like I've been seeing your signs, like, oh yeah, you're that guy. So it just starts to create that, you know, everyone starts to recognize who you are. So it was that more than anything.
Yeah, in the digital world, we would call that an impression. I mean, you're making a brand impression on them. I'm curious when you think about generating traffic to an open house, that flies in the face of conventional wisdom, right? Conventional wisdom says I'm going to hold it open once, and so I'm going to do a bunch of promotion and marketing to try to get as many people there as possible. That's not your approach. So maybe back me up. If you're going to hold a house open, how far back are we starting, right? Are you calling, or were you calling that agent, the listing agent, the week before, 2 weeks before? How'd that go?
So usually I set every open house I'd usually set the following week up every like Friday or Saturday. So then it'd be in some cases 48 hours or so, some cases maybe 72 hours in advance. So not too long, but then like if you compared Friday to the next Friday, that's a week in advance from that one. So I figured that would maybe Monday, sometimes people wouldn't see it, but by, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then going to the following weekend, they'd see it. So it was always just setting up Friday or Saturday before.
Now, I talk to agents. Some of them take the approach of, I don't care who shows up to the actual opening. It's just a reason for me to prospect around it. Some agents, they want to drive actual traffic as much as possible to the open house. Two kind of broad standards on different sides of the spectrum. What's your goal when you're sitting in open? Are you trying to just get in front of the neighbors, or are you trying to actually get people to come to you?
I'm trying to get as many people to walk in as possible, because I feel like open houses are the only thing in our industry that's similar to like working at a car dealership, and people, walking in, raising their hand and saying, "Hey, I want to buy something." So try and get as many people in, and we use really big open house signs because of that. So I use like a 24 by 36 A-frame sign. They're massive. And so like you could see them, like even if you're driving 60 miles per hour down the road, you'll notice my sign.
Did you say 24 by 36? That's really big. And is it branded to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, great.
They have to have all my branding. They're all the same. They're all the black and white with Obsidian and EXP, and it has my name and my number, and all of it's big. So that way you could see it. Even if a lot of people where we live, like drive like 60 miles per hour on regular roads. So like if you're using a regular 18 by 24 sign, they're going to blow right past it, and they're not going to notice it until they're literally passing it, and then it's too late. So I'm trying to catch as many people as I can with those signs.
Okay. All right. And how many of those signs are we putting out?
Just 6, because I would do them every day, and doing more than 6 is a pain in the butt to take up and take down every day.
Yeah. Now with your 6, do you have a strategy, a formula for where you place them?
I like to look at Google Maps beforehand if I don't know exactly what like the busy, streets are. But it's pretty much just make sure I have one on the busy street, 1 or 2 on the busy street, and just enough pointing towards the house. That way I just get the arrows pointing people. But that's all it is. Just making sure arrows point people.
Okay. And then in terms of promoting the open house, aside from the signs, is there anything else that you're doing? Are you doing social posts? Are you door knocking neighbors or anything like that?
So a big thing, and it doesn't bring, I've noticed, guests into the open house, but a big thing I do is a story on open house on Instagram and Facebook every day. Okay. And that's more for like the perception of showing people, hey, I'm busy, and hey, I'm doing stuff when others aren't. And then the other piece is we would use something like Mojo Dialer and then call the neighborhood and invite them. Besides that, there's not anything else.
Okay. And when you're inviting the neighbors, what does that script sound like?
Hey, this is Payson Robertson with EXP. I'm sitting in an open house in your neighborhood at 123 Main Street. We're sitting in it all week, Monday through Friday from 11 to 1 p.m. We'd love if you could stop by. And then I would just see what they say from there. And then I would like to usually ask, like, hey, what do you love about the neighborhood? What do you hate about the neighborhood? And then if I could get more out of it, hey, do you know anyone that would be looking to move into the community? Or sometimes, you'd hit on the what do you hate about the neighborhood? And then maybe they end up talking about selling. So I would kind of just take it from wherever there. And the whole point of the cold call really was just to have a conversation. And it didn't feel like a cold call, because you're calling to invite someone to an open house. You're not calling them to sell their house. So it was a much easier flowing conversation.
Okay. And are you just saying, hey, come to the open house? Are you trying to capture their email stuff for your database or anything like that?
No, I'm just inviting people to the open house and seeing where the conversation goes.
Okay. And you mentioned your, I think you said story. What's the script for that sound like?
So I post like an infographic of the open house on my story. And then usually I would get to the open house and I'd flip the camera around and I'd be in it and I'd talk. And I'd just talk about what the house is, how long I'd be there, what times I'd be there throughout the week. And then I would do like maybe just a quick couple videos, like highlights of like certain parts of the house.
Okay. Like unique features or something like that?
Yep.
Okay. Very cool. And so we've done the directional signs and the promotional signs. We've done the story. We've done some call outs. How many neighbors, by the way, are we calling around to?
Usually 100 to 200, I would say. Somewhere, if the neighborhood had up to 200 people, we'd do up to 200. If the neighborhood was a smaller one, we'd do 100.
Okay. Not door knocking, no?
No. Reason being, when I started doing this, it was about 115 to 120 out every day. And then
Okay.
by the time I kept doing it, it got too busy then to even want to door knock. So it was just like, okay, I'll make sure I do the cold calls, but it was too hot and then got too busy for the door knocking. But I have
Yeah.
agents on my team that do that, and they love it, and they're picking up deals from it.
Okay. They love door knocking.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. And anything else we're doing to promote it before I ask you about the actual open house?
No, it's just make sure it's on the MLS. Use Instagram and Facebook, and that's more just, for perception of showing you're busy, and then the cold calls.
Cool. Are you boosting those ads or retargeting or anything like that? No, just to.
I tried, and I don't feel like I got anything out of it, so I stopped doing it.
Okay. All right. And so before we get to day of, any other preparation that we're making? Are we, inviting DJs or anything like that?
No, so the open house itself was super simple. Simple. But the one thing I would make sure we do is with the house, a lot of people are going to walk in and they're not going to buy the house. It's just how it obviously works. So what I would do is, like, say if it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house and it doesn't have a pool, I'm going to look for all the 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses in that immediate area within the same price point that do have a pool. And then I'll look at the ones that are for the 4-bedroom ones that do versus don't. And I'll make multiple different links already saved in my notes on my phone. And I'll just have all those ready to go. Because then when I'm having conversation with someone in person, odds are they don't like this house. It's just the way it works. So then I'd say, hey, what do you like? What are you looking for? And I've already made all these different lists of homes. And then I don't have to go and act like I'm digging for it or go try and dig while they're there. I don't have to say, hey, I'll send it to you later. I can send it to them right then and there through text, and then I capture their phone number.
Okay. All right. So we've done our homework on similar properties in the area that we can show them. Are we calling any builders for inventory or anything like that? Just whatever's on the MLS. Okay, great. And then, so for the open house itself, are we doing flowers, cookies, ice cream truck, or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
So it's the car sign-in sheet for open house compliance. It's the just the property flyers and a business cards, and that's it.
Okay. So in the property flyers, the same things you'd put in the sign box, basically.
Yep.
Okay. And you said car, I guess in your state, they make you use a particular form for the open house sign-in.
They have like a particular form that they like us to use, so we just use that as like our sign-in sheet now.
Okay. And so day of, are we doing anything else? You said you flip the camera around. Hey, I'm going to be doing this for, the appeal and allure of it. And then we're setting up our stuff inside the open house, our brochures and things like that. So what happens when the first person walks in?
Yeah. So I like to greet people at the door. And first thing I like to ask is, hey, how'd you find us? Like, did you find me from the open house signs, or did you find me on Zillow or Realtor.com? And then that's just kind of like to gauge, how serious they are. And then they'll tell me, and then I'll be like, oh, cool. And then I'll say, are you looking at this as like a home for you guys to live in, or are you looking at this as like an investment property? Then they'll go on, and that'll just kind of spark conversation. And I'll just start to just kind of follow them throughout the open house. Whether some people, want more distance, so you give them more distance as you do it. Some people are like just ready to just chat, so they just start talking. And it's just finding out what they're looking for. And like, I just like to use the house as like I'm walking through, like, hey, like this is, because a lot of times people come from the signs, and so they won't know what the house is. And it's like, hey, this is 3 bedrooms. Is that ideally what you're looking for? Oh no, we're actually looking for 4 bedrooms. Cool. And this one doesn't have a pool. Are you looking for a pool? Oh yeah, we are looking for a pool. And then it's like, oh, I already have a list ready to go. Would you like me to send that to you that matches everything that you're talking about? And then that's when I will ask for their phone number, and I'll text over to them right then and there, so that way I know I'm getting the correct phone number.
Okay. So we're walking with them throughout the property, and we're building rapport and asking great questions. May or may not have gotten their phone number at that particular point. Where then do you take it as you're winding down the tour?
It's making sure I get the phone number, and then setting up next steps with them. If I did get the phone number, if I didn't, it's still just trying to find some way to give some type of value to get the phone number. But I would say typically you get the phone number with how we would do it, and then it would be just talking about like, hey, like, and then it would get into financing, and are you guys pre-approved? Are you cash? And then sometimes they would see houses that they'd like in that link that I sent them. So then we'd be setting up showings or working on setting up showings as they're leaving.
Anything else? If I were going to go do what you have done and follow your strategy, anything else you think would be helpful for me to know?
Let's see. I would say just the biggest thing that I'm watching with my own team is like making sure that you don't expect instant gratification from it. So I think like people want like it to like change something overnight. And I mean, since I got lucky and it did help, like within a 100-day sprint, like it changed what I'm doing. But I've watched it for some people not change their stuff in a 100-day sprint. But if you look at it over a 6-month time period or a 12-month time period, it has changed their business drastically. So I think it's like sticking the course is what's most important with this, and not being like, don't go into this thinking, oh, I'm instantly going to get a deal. Go into this thinking like I'm building up a foundation for myself that's going to pay me for years to come. Because I still have leads that are turning over from 2-3 years ago from open houses that I set.
Isn't that funny? How do you do that? I mean, it had to have been daunting, maybe a little frustrating at times, especially as you waited for that hockey stick to hit. What was it you told yourself to keep going?
I would always just remind myself of the money that other people were making in this industry and that I wasn't. And I always knew that like, okay, if other people can, I can do it too. So it's just, I knew if I stayed the course long enough that I could figure it out. And that's what I would just remind myself of. It's like, okay, if other people are making the type of money I want to make, I could do it too. I just gotta stay consistent.
That's awesome. All right. Any last piece of advice before I let you go?
No, I think that's it. It's the massive action and consistency. That's whatever we're doing, in our business, that's what it comes down to.
All right, there you go. I told you guys that was going to be a fire interview. That guy's just doing it a little bit different. So you want to go all in? That's the definition of going all in when you do a bunch of open houses like that guy did it. So sometimes it's just a matter of doing more of something and doing a large volume of something to really get the world to move in your direction. So it's like that with a lot of things. A little bit of effort sometimes can be really surpassed by doing a lot of effort in a very short period of time. So it's volume and consistency in a very short period of time. You can really make your business move. So love that interview. Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you, Payson. Appreciate that a bunch. Thanks for sharing everything you know. We love it that you're willing to collaborate and show us the playbook. So thank you for that. All right, so there you go. There's a big agent meeting for Friday, May 16th. Wow. May is flying by. So let us know. QR code. Give us some feedback. Let us know. Hit the QR code and let us know. NPS survey. Did you like what we did? If you give us a rating on a scale of 1 to 10, if we did a great job and you got something out of today, give us a good rating. And if you need to do something a little bit different, don't hesitate to give us a score that reflects that and let us know what you guys need. All right. So always constantly making tweaks and appreciate everybody that does feedback for that. All right. There you go. That is the show for Friday, May 16th, big agent meeting. Stay tuned. Coming up next, iConversations. See y'all next week.